rethinking the dollar, I think, is something that everybody should do. Too few people understand what exactly the Federal Reserve is in the States or any central bank for any country. And educating themselves is a way to preserve your wealth in the future. And I think far too few people do it.
Welcome to Rethinking the Dollar. Today, I'm excited to have my guest, Mr. Brian Leni. He's the founder of JuniorStockReview.com, an investment resource that provides a wealth of in-depth analysis in the junior mining sector. And so today he sits down to share his thoughts with us on the economy as well as the importance of precious metals in our possession. So Brian Leni, welcome to Rethinking the Dollar.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me and sharing your thoughts on the mining sector. And so one thing here on Rethinking the Dollar, I try to bring to the audience a variety of investment opportunities. And so I don't know much about the mining sector. So I'm looking forward to finding out what your thoughts are and what are some good opportunities for people in the future to diversify and preserve their wealth. But before I get into that, I start off with some Rethinking the Dollar questions. And the first question is, what comes to mind when Brian Leni hears the words Rethinking the Dollar?
Actually, there's two things. First, that's basically how I got started in this whole journey I'm on. Back more than a decade ago, I started researching monetary policy. And when you go into monetary policy, that inevitably leads you to gold, or at least led me to gold. And from gold, I moved into the junior resource sector, and I haven't looked back. And the second thing is, rethinking the dollar, I think, is something that everybody should do. Too few people understand, what exactly the Federal Reserve is in the States or any central bank for any country. And educating themselves, is a way to preserve your wealth in the future. And I think far too few people do it.
Right, I agree 100%. Now, part of the whole Rethinking the Dollar concept is to basically, as I mentioned, provide people with options and solutions. And so you hinted at education, which is a big bonus and a big plus for nowadays, especially. So in your opinion, would you say when it comes to just practical financial information as well as investing information, right now would be a great time to really begin taking up new approaches towards studying and learning about different sectors such as mining, as well as precious metals, as well as probably stocks or whatnot? What are your thoughts on just the importance of educating yourself?
Education is of the utmost importance. The only person you could really rely on is yourself. And I think too much of the population, looks to someone else, maybe the government or someone else, to kind of direct them where they need to go. Especially if it's looking towards retirement or just the general wealth creation that they have on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah.
So education is really important. And, for different people, it's going to mean different things. Like some people probably going to want to concentrate just on the precious metals themselves and how those work as investments or insurance. And then for other people that are more interested, but there's a big distinction. If you get into the mining companies, it's a totally different realm of investment with its own risks and its own ways to create wealth.
Right. Now, you are the founder of JuniorStockReview.com. How did that come about? Give us a little bit of your background on how you arrived into the mining sector, the junior mining sector at that.
Sure. So I'm an engineer by trade. I've got a professional designation in Ontario, Canada. I worked in the steel industry for 10 years, first as a process engineer on the floor, and then I moved into management. But ever since I started making money, I've been, and I like I alluded to in the beginning, I researched monetary policy that led me into gold. And then I started looking at junior resource companies. I made a lot of mistakes to begin with, but I put it together this last maybe 5 or 6 years. And I took a big step in 2014 and 2015. I deployed my cash in what I thought were the best junior resource companies. And in 2016, I was paid back with a gain of around 300% across my portfolio. As I wasn't fully enjoying my job at the time, I decided to leave and go into investing full time. And that's where I am today.
Right. Now, for those that might be watching this interview here and have no real background or foundation to what junior mining stocks are, what metals and what's some of the process to getting just equated with informed on what junior mining stocks actually entails?
Sure. So, if for someone that's interested to look at mining and they've already kind of sold on the gold thesis, maybe gold junior resource companies are something you want to look at first. The difference between investing in precious metals and then investing in the mining companies that produce them is that the junior resource sector is driven by people. These junior resource companies are only as good as the people that run them. So your education really, it may be counterintuitive, is going to rely heavily on how you gauge people, their past histories. There's people in this sector that are serially successful, and being able to buy those guys when they're on sale, such as now, we've been in a bear market for the last couple of years. If you can find these good management teams, that's the bulk of the work. After that, metal choice and the jurisdiction are two big parts to the story. Jurisdiction is another thing. Being able to take a look at a jurisdiction and say, okay, I'm comfortable with the risk associated with buying a junior company that's exploring for gold in, let's say, Ecuador, versus a company that's exploring for gold in Nevada. Nevada is a tier 1 jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. Ecuador is viewed by many to have a lot of risk. So it's delineating between these different aspects of the companies, who they are, what they're mining, and where they're mining it, are really good places to start when looking at the junior resource sector.
Now, for most investors, especially, the RTD guests or viewers rather, a lot of people always, leave a comment or so, mention about, hey, Mike, do you know, what is it a good idea to invest in stocks as far as diversification's sake in regards to junior miners or whatnot? Now, as far as your opinion is concerned, as far as, allocation of how to physical metal, junior miner stocks in your portfolio and things of that nature, how do you balance that out yourself?
It's a very personal thing. It depends on the risk you want to take, but maybe even more so, it's your end goal. Like, what are you actually looking to do? To me, an investment in gold is about wealth preservation. It's not necessarily about making money on gold, and that's something that I think you really have to. I got this question emailed to me actually recently, and somebody asked me, how high do I think gold is going to go, and would I be happy with $10,000 gold? Well, yeah, I would be happy with $10,000 gold, but you kind of got to ask yourself, well, what does the world look like if we have $10,000 gold? It could be a hyperinflation environment. Maybe food, in that hyperinflation environment costs you, $100,000 for a loaf of bread or something ridiculous. So you really got to ask yourself, like, do I want to collect on an insurance policy? And that's kind of how I look at gold. The side note to that is the junior resource sector. Like I said, the junior companies are based off the people. And because of that, there's a whole other set of risks that come with that. So you have to be willing to do the research and be comfortable with that high amount of risk that's associated with a company that only burns money. There's no income stream. These guys are constantly having to go to market to progress their project further, which means dilution. And there's a number of different things, but you have to be comfortable with that risk profile and be able to separate your emotion connected maybe to the metal and the logic that surrounds an investment in a junior company.
Right. Now, as you were giving that explanation there, first thing that came to mind was the gold to silver ratio as far as allocation and wealth preservation. Like, in your opinion, based upon your analysis, as well as just in-depth look into a lot of mining companies and whatnot, when it comes to actually what comes out of the ground, gold, silver, as well as other metals and minerals, what are your thoughts on the price? Not the ratio, rather, of gold to silver. Is that something that do you personally have a preference over the one, or when it comes to preservation, they're both the same, or because we have gold bugs, we have silver people out here? What are your thoughts on that?
It depends. So the gold to silver ratio, I don't put a lot of stock into it. It's not the reason why, let's say, because I really want to make the distinction between the companies and the metal. So first, I make a cut between the precious metals, and the gold to silver ratio isn't a reason why I would necessarily buy silver. I'd buy silver based on the fundamentals of that metal itself. And then the distinction has to be made. I definitely wouldn't invest in a silver company or a junior silver company because I think there's leverage that could come from the gold to silver ratio.
Right, understandable. Now, when it comes to just understanding a better lay of the land when it comes to junior mining stock companies here in the U.S. U.S. of A., are there a lot of profitable companies going and projects going right now, or do you have to look abroad, or for someone that's looking to get involved and to study and how would they begin studying, and what exactly are they looking for when they begin studying, in your opinion?
Sure. So we're very lucky in North America. Some of the best jurisdictions for mining are actually in Canada and the United States. And for your American viewers, looking at a place like Nevada, especially, it's a premier jurisdiction. And I was actually there 2 weeks ago looking at a project in the world famous Battle Mount Eureka Cortez Trend. And it's in the Eureka County, which is around Elko, Nevada. And you can definitely look at companies in that area, especially if your risk tolerance is a little bit lower than stepping outside of the United States or Canada to start.
Now, for someone who has no background, like, what are some steps that you would give them to point them in the right direction as far as like actually getting involved and probably putting small increments into some projects or whatnot? What would be the process to jumping into junior mining stocks?
So first, maybe pick a metal that you're interested in. Mm-hmm. Second, and I think, because it's a people business, I think you need to attend a conference, a mining conference, and go and meet the people and see the people that you sort of resonate with, or you get a feel. Well, not a feel. You don't want to base things off feelings, but you want to get a sense for who that person is, how they're going to progress the project further, and where their motivations lie. Meaning, what is their cost of capital in the business? It's really hard to narrow down an exact way to do it, because it's really going to depend on the person and what your goal is. So going to a conference, meeting the people, meeting a variety of different companies, and I think you'll start to get the feel of what the business is about and how to go about it.
Right, understandable. Now, I was actually reading online before we did this video here, and one of the things that I highlighted that came across is that the markets mining stock sector is subject to booms and busts according to the overall economy. And so a lot of people in the alternative media space believe that we're approaching a recession or a one now. Now, based upon prior history, me not being familiar with the mining stock sector, when there's downturns in the markets, how do mining stocks corporations perform? Do they tend to suffer as well, or what's the correlation there with the economy?
So if you go back to 2008 or the fall of 2008, when we had the initial crash, and pretty much it wiped out everything. If you look at the beginning of 2009, the market as a whole, didn't matter if it was mining stock, tech stock, everything was down. But coming out of that, and I think at least a portion of it, like maybe the gold stocks, of course, have some correlation with the gold price. And in moments of uncertainty or high stress, the gold price is a great gauge, and the gold price started to take off. And as such, the gold stocks kind of followed it. So if you look, it was kind of counter the market in that way, where it really broke out. And from 2009 till 2011, we had a great bull run, or a section of the bull run. It eventually, the gold price topped in around 1920 in 2011. And from there, we've kind of been in this bear market ever since. And, we had a pop again in 2016 that wasn't really correlated with anything. But now again, uncertainty has come up. The Fed raises rates in December, and the market, they didn't like it at all. And coming into the new year, we see a rising gold price. And as such, there's a lot more attention on the gold stocks. And personally, I feel that we could be into the next leg or the beginning of a bull run in the stocks.
That's interesting. Now, a bull run, in your opinion, because of the environment we're in now, with the global economy, trade wars, all these things happening around us, do you think that plays into a possible bull run coming? Because recently, gold prices, silver prices hit a little bit of a spike, got a lot of people excited, and a lot of people think that this could be the rally overall. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So it's definitely based off uncertainty, and as we lead up into the next couple of weeks to the actual Fed announcement, whether they'll raise rates or not, I think that's going to be a key moment. If you're looking just at the gold price, that uncertainty that surrounds, because I can actually see a strong gold price no matter if they raise rates or don't raise rates, which is fairly interesting, and it's another reason why I really like gold. But it will be a turning point into kind of what happens with the stocks. Obviously, although I don't like to be necessarily bullish on the stock market, and that's the reason why I invest. I like to keep my process constant, but I do think a strong gold price will lead, the gold stocks in the right direction in terms of up. So yeah.
Yeah. Now you hinted at the Federal Reserve a couple times there, so I feel like I should just ask you a question on that. Your opinion, rather, as far as rate hikes. Whether they raise them or they don't raise them. What are your short term and your long term thoughts in regards to the U.S. economy? Will we continue to have this global expansion as our president mentions? And if we do not, what would that look like if things slow down, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's something I've been giving a lot of thought to, and I'm actually not sure. I was actually surprised that they not only raised rates, but they raised them 4 times in 2018. And given that, if you were to ask me in 2017, I would have guessed that it might have been half that, because it was two raises the year before in 2017. Thought it would have been more the same, but it seems to go contrary to almost what I was thinking. So right now, I don't think that they're going to raise rates in March. The commentary that we had in January, at the end of January, the Powell suggested, they've got a plethora of tools at their disposal, and they'll use whatever they need to keep. And I'm putting words in his mouth. The market frothy. So what that means, honestly, I think it's anybody's guess. But honestly, for me, like I mentioned before, it doesn't play into the way I invest in the market. I have gold for insurance for no matter what happens. And then I invest in junior companies or I try to be as consistent as I can in each company that I invest in, with the same criteria for my investment, regardless of where we are in the market. And why I think that's important, because I've been through the ups and down cycles, and you tend to be more aggressive in an up cycle and not aggressive enough in a down cycle. Therefore, if you take more of a neutral road and say, okay, I'm going to be neutral into how I feel, what the commodity price is going to be, and I'm going to base my decisions more off the quantitative analysis that I do on the company, and make sure that I'm buying value that has high upside potential. If I remain constant like that, I'll do well, and no matter where the market is. And my experience is that's how it becomes much more consistent, and that's how I was able to leave my job and be where I am today.
All right, that's good there. Now, for your juniorstockreview.com website there, and so you do analysis on a variety of companies. Walk us through some of the benefits people can receive from looking at some of your analysis work, and some of the things you take to assess the value of projects or whatnot, for those that are interested in probably taking a look and getting involved.
Sure. So basically, I write about what I'm investing in with my money. That's my premise, and I won't write about companies that wouldn't invest in. Then I kind of go through a process where I look at a number of factors, and the first one, like I mentioned earlier, is the people. Who are the people? What's their track record? How are they educated? And basically, where is their motivation in the company? Like, how much of the company do they own, and where is that price point? Because I think that's key to know how hard these guys are going to work, and if they're aligned with your interest. Secondly, the jurisdiction. This is a huge thing, and it's actually what I'm going to be talking at the upcoming PDAC conference. It's jurisdiction is a place or is a factor, I think, that the investor can shift probabilities in their favor. While investing in the tier 1 jurisdictions that have given us these tier 1 deposits over many decades, I think the next bull run, or the next big deposit, is going to come from jurisdictions that have a little more risk attached to them. And this could be something like Ecuador. And so in that, I analyze the jurisdiction. I go through, the culture of it, the demographics, where it's located, government policy that can include taxation, labor laws, all these things, to kind of have a gauge on how much risk you're taking in that jurisdiction. But the key point is the way you shift the probability in your favor is that these jurisdictions, because they've had all of these issues, whether it's cost of capital or even access, they haven't seen a lot of modern exploration. And as such, you've got a higher probability of hitting, a great deposit than a place that's been explored with modern exploration over the last, 40, 50 years. Second to that is taking a look at the company itself. If it's a developmental company and they've already have a deposit that's got a 43-101 resource, or maybe even an economic study. I take a look at the economics of that study, and I do a discounted cash flow model and see what the upside potential is. If they expand the deposit, if it's an open pit mine versus an underground mine. Go through that analysis and look for that upside potential. And then finally, it's kind of putting it all together. What's the share structure and that upside potential, and where do I think this could go with what the company has planned? And in my concluding remarks, I kind of put it all together for the investor and see if it's maybe something that fits their criteria.
Interesting. And so as we draw towards the end of our chat today, I'm definitely interested in finding out more myself. So I would like, if you don't mind, can you share with us a couple of projects that are underway that you think have potential, just as for people just to glance at and probably look into, as well as probably visit your site and join your newsletter and get that same type of information there. But any projects you are really excited about this time?
Sure. Well, speaking of Ecuador, there's one company in particular that I'm very excited about, and it's Adventus Mining Corporation. And the ticker's ADZN on the TSXV. Mm-hmm. They have their Curipamba project in Ecuador, and they are progressing that forward to an updated PEA. And what I'm most looking forward to is they're currently doing an airborne survey, which they're going to take and create drill targets. And there's a lot of potential in this surrounding area because it's never been explored before outside of the El Domo deposit. So I'm very excited about them. Additionally, in Canada, there's a company called Anaconda Mining. They are doing some amazing things at their Gold World project. They've got this new technology that allows them, and I imagine this is how they're going to use it, is they've got really thin-veined deposit at Goldboro, and they've developed this new way to mine it economically. And I really think that these are some of the changing technology that are going to change the whole sector really as we progress forward. So those are two companies in particular.
Interesting. With Brian Leni, I appreciate you joining us here on Rethinking the Dollar and sharing us a wealth of knowledge in reference to junior miner sector. And so last thoughts, anything you want to leave us with here, as well as let people know where they can find out more of your work and stay in tune with some of the projects and things you have going on. You mentioned you're speaking pretty soon. Leave the audience with where they can find you at and how they can stay in tune with your work. Sure.
So it's juniorstockreview.com. I write about what I'm investing in the sector, and it's free to subscribe and have it sent to your inbox. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Well, once again, everybody, thank you guys for tuning in to this RTD interview special here. It's been great, and it's always great to bring you people who are in the scene, investing and learning and educating people on the importance of diversifying, as well as getting their weight up in precious metals. As he mentioned, he's a gold gentleman as well. So, Brian, it's been great having you on the program. Look forward to continue to follow your work, as well as myself continue to receive education from you in regards to the mining sector. So, once again, thank you, and enjoy your day, Brian. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Mike.